I want you to picture a scenario that I think every single person listening has experienced.
Okay.
You're driving home from work. Maybe you're stressed. Maybe you're thinking about what to cook for dinner, or you're, replaying some awkward conversation you had with your boss.
Yep. Been there.
You get in the car, you turn the key, and you start driving.
I think I know where this is going.
And then suddenly you're pulling into your driveway, you put the car in park, and you have this sudden kind of terrifying realization.
You don't remember the drive.
At all. You don't remember the turns, the stoplights, the other cars. It's just a total blank.
The classic autopilot experience. It's universal, but when you actually stop and think about it, it is deeply unsettling.
It's incredibly unsettling because for 20 minutes, a 2-ton machine was moving at 60 miles an hour, and you weren't really the one driving it.
Something else was?
Something else was, and that is a relatively harmless example. But what happens when that autopilot feeling creeps into the rest of your life? That nagging sensation that life is just sort of happening to you.
Right. It's that feeling of being a passenger in your own body. You react to things, you go through the motions, you say the scripts, but are you actually making choices?
Or is it just mechanics?
Exactly.
That is the massive question we are tackling today. And I'm going to put you, the listener, on the spot for a second here.
Uh-oh.
When you get angry, really seeing red, blood boiling, angry, did you choose to be angry? Or when you procrastinate on that big project you know you need to do you choose to delay it?
Or does it just happen?
It just happens. It's a confronting question, and most people don't like the answer.
They really don't.
And to help us answer it, we are diving into a fascinating set of excerpts today from a text titled Mastering the Mind, Rewriting the Internal Program.
And what I love about this source material is the format. It isn't some dry academic paper filled with jargon. It's presented as a dialogue between a teacher and a student. So it feels less like a lecture and more like a wake-up call about human psychology.
A wake-up call is exactly right. It reads like a manual for deprogramming a machine.
It does.
So the mission for this deep dive is pretty high stakes. We want to understand this invisible program that seems to govern our reactions. And more importantly, we want to figure out if we can actually rewrite the code.
Can we regain our freedom? It's the ultimate question of agency. So let's unpack this.
Okay, so the source starts with a core argument that I found honestly kind of relieving, but also a bit scary.
I know exactly the part you mean.
The teacher in the text basically says, hey, listen, you don't lack willpower, you aren't lazy, you are just acting out a preset program.
Which is a huge shift in perspective. Usually when we fail to do something or we, lose our temper, what do? We blame our character.
Oh, completely. I'm weak or I have no discipline.
I'm just a broken person. We identify with the failure. But the source argues that what's actually happening is a mechanical process. It calls it a system of reactive responses.
And to prove this, the teacher in the text puts the student through what I'd call the choice test.
I love this part.
It's so simple, but it really traps you in your own logic. The teacher asks about specific emotional triggers to see if you're actually in charge. First up, fear.
Right. When fear strikes, does it ask for permission? Does it send you a calendar invite? No. The text says it arrives before logic.
Yeah.
You see something scary, your heart rate spikes, your palms sweat. That happens milliseconds before you consciously think, I am afraid.
It's automatic. It bypasses the CEO and goes straight to the muscles.
Totally. Then there's anger. The teacher asks, do you choose to flare up? And if we are honest, the answer is usually no.
It just turns on.
Like a light switch someone else flipped. And the third one, which I think everyone struggles with, procrastination. The student in the text admits that they don't choose to delay work. They don't sit down and say, I think I will ruin my productivity today.
Right.
Instead, they feel dragged away.
Dragged away. That is such a perfect description. It's that feeling of scrolling through social media when you have a deadline. It feels like a magnetic pull.
Yeah.
You're looking at the screen thinking, I should stop, but your thumb keeps moving.
So if fear, anger, and procrastination are all happening without our conscious consent, the teacher asks the big question, who is driving the car?
It's not you.
It's the program.
So where does that leave us? I mean, this brings us to a pretty terrifying conclusion right there. Does this mean we have no free will? Are we just bio-robots running scripts?
It's a bleak worldview. And this is where it is really interesting. The teacher in the text corrects that assumption. He says, we do have freedom. We've just misunderstood what freedom is.
How so?
We tend to think freedom means doing whatever I want, whenever I want.
Right. Eating the cake, skipping the gym, yelling at the guy who cut me off. Freedom!
Exactly. But the text argues that isn't freedom. That's slavery to impulse. If you cannot resist the cake, are you free? Or are you a servant to your craving?
Hmm, that's a great point.
True freedom, according to this source, is the ability to observe oneself before reacting. It's having that split-second awareness to see the program running and decide whether or not to execute it.
That distinction is crucial. It's the difference between being the actor on stage who is forced to read the lines and being the director watching from the wings who can, change the scene.
Perfectly put. And there's a quote from the source that really underscores why we struggle with this. The teacher says, if we spent half the time we waste studying the mind to cope better with life, we'd find ourselves much stronger than we think.
Oof. Yeah, that one hits home. We spend years learning math, history, how to do our jobs, but how many classes did you take in school on how to observe your own anger?
Zero.
Exactly. Which leads us perfectly into the next section. Because in the text, the student is just like me, a bit of a skeptic. They ask, okay, this sounds nice and philosophical, maybe a little mystical, but is there any actual proof?
Or is this just self-help fluff?
Right.
I love that the source anticipates the skepticism. And surprisingly, it doubles down on hard evidence. It references specific educational studies programs that implemented this kind of mental training in schools.
From elementary all the way to university?
Right. And historically, they called it mind control. Not in a sinister way, but in the sense of self-regulation.
Controlling one's own mind.
Exactly. And they measured the results using psychological testing before and after these training periods. They were looking at data.
What specifically were they measuring?
Things like self-image, confidence levels, calmness, and something called ego strength.
Ego strength sounds like it could be a bad thing, like being arrogant.
It's actually the opposite in clinical psychology. Ego strength is your psychological resilience. It's how robust your sense of self is. If you have low ego strength, a small criticism shatters you.
Got it. So it's like structural integrity for your personality and the results.
Statistically significant shifts. The improvements in confidence and calmness were so consistent that the researchers concluded it just couldn't be random chance.
So the human mind isn't fixed. It can be adjusted or tuned toward the positive.
And you can actually measure that change on paper.
Okay, but stats are one thing. I want to hear about the real people. The text shares a couple of specific stories that I found really touching because they were so mundane.
Yes. They weren't about someone climbing Everest. They were about normal life.
Yeah.
Like the nail biter.
The 13-year-old girl. Yes, this is a great example because it's so small, yet so monumental for her.
She had a chronic habit of biting her nails whenever she felt anxious. We've all got something like that, right? Tapping a foot, checking our phone.
For sure, the nervous to tick.
So she applied this training. In the moment the urge hit, the program said, bite nails. She recognized it. She saw it.
She didn't fight it.
She didn't fight it. She said to herself, don't bite. She closed her eyes, took a breath, relaxed, and she just stopped.
It sounds so simple. But anyone who is trying to break a habit knows that just stopping is the hardest thing in the world.
It is. But for her, that single moment of intervention was a revolution. She broke the loop. She proved to herself that she wasn't a slave to the urge.
It changed her self-image from I can't help it to I am in charge.
Exactly. Then there was the one about siblings.
Oh, I think every parent or person with a brother or sister will relate to this.
Yes, the student who was constantly fighting with their younger brother. It was just their dynamic. Brother does something annoying, student yells, fight ensues. It's a script they had acted out 1,000 times.
The program running on loop.
Exactly. But one day, the student feels the anger rising and suddenly asks, why fight? Getting mad is useless. And just like that, the fight didn't happen.
And the text notes that this one question saved an entire afternoon from being ruined.
That's what strikes me. We think of rewriting the program as this huge life overhaul.
Like you have to move to a monastery or something.
Right. But these examples are tiny. It's saving an afternoon. It's not biting a fingernail.
But those tiny moments accumulate. That's the point. And the source says this extends way beyond school kids, right? To prisoners, addicts.
People living in poverty. The training helped them shift from what the text calls an external reference point to an internal reference point.
I want to flag that term because it seems really important. External reference point. What does that mean in this context?
It means your sense of stability and worth comes from outside yourself. If people praise you, you're happy. If they criticize you, you're devastated.
So you're a leaf in the wind, you have no center.
Precisely. Shifting to an internal reference point means you have a stable center. You judge your actions based on your own values, not just the reaction of the world around you.
That is powerful. Okay, so we know it's possible. We have the evidence. But now I want to get under the hood. The source breaks down how this machine works into 3 layers.
Let's do it. You need to understand the trap to get out of it. Layer 1 is habits, is imprints.
This part really challenged me. The text says habits aren't personality.
Right. We tend to say, I'm just a short-tempered person. We make it an identity. We claim it. But the source defines a habit as nothing more than, well, impressions on brain cells reinforced by repetition.
It's biology, not destiny. It's just a groove in the record.
That's it. And the tragedy, according to the teacher, is that we mistake the recording for the artist. We think the program is us, so we defend it.
Wow. Okay, that's layer 1. Layer 2 is self-image. The text calls it either a prison or a launch pad.
This connects right back to the studies. If you have a self-image that says, I am weak or I am unlucky, you will unconsciously act in ways that confirm that belief.
So life follows the orders given by your self-image.
Absolutely. It reminds me of the thermostat concept. If you see yourself as a 70-degree person, moderately successful, moderately happy, and life suddenly heats up to 90 degrees.
You get a promotion or a great relationship.
Your internal program kicks in to cool you back down.
Yeah.
You sabotage yourself to match your self-image. You cannot outperform your own self-image for very long.
And then there's layer 3, which I think is the hardest to fight because it is everywhere, the environment and society.
This is the invisible power of the environment. The source argues that society basically trains us to be programmed. From the time we are toddlers, we are trained to rely on external validation.
Praise, fear of rejection, rewards, punishments.
We are trained to look outside for permission to feel good.
There's a metaphor the teacher uses here that I found really haunting. He says we become like a tree that has been tied up for so long, we forget we have roots.
It's tragic, isn't it? We get so used to the ropes, the validation, the likes, the approval, that we think the ropes are what's holding us up. We'd think if the ropes were cut, we'd fall over.
We forget that we can stand on our own.
Exactly.
So we have these 3 layers: biological habits, our self-image, and societal pressure. It feels like a pretty formidable trap, but the source does offer a solution, and it starts with what not to do.
Right. The first rule is, do not fight the mind with force.
This introduces the power of the pause.
The interval, or the gap. The core principle here is that between the stimulus, the trigger, and your response, there is a tiny space.
And freedom lives in that space. I love that. Freedom isn't in the action, it's in the pause before the action.
And sometimes that pause is just a single conscious breath.
Yeah.
It's refusing to let the spark become a forest fire immediately.
The source breaks this down into 3 practical lessons. Lesson 1 is observation versus willpower. Now, I'm a big fan of willpower. I like to grit my teeth and get things done.
Oh.
Why does the teacher say willpower is a bad strategy here?
Because willpower is a limited resource. You run out of it.
Right.
The teacher uses this military analogy that puts it perfectly.
Oh.
He says willpower is like a single guard. But a habit is an entire army.
Laughs.
Okay, when you put it that way, I do not like those odds.
You can't win a direct fight. If you just grit your teeth and say, I will not be angry, I will not be angry, you're engaging the army on the battlefield. You're eventually going to lose.
So what do we do instead?
You observe, you step back, you watch the reaction rise up like a wave. You say, ah, here comes the anger, my chest is tight, my voice wants to raise.
You acknowledge it without becoming it.
Exactly. You treat it like a cloud passing through the sky rather than the sky itself. You disidentify from the emotion.
That's lesson 1. What's lesson 2?
Lesson 2 is shifting the reference point. This goes back to what we discussed earlier, moving from external to internal.
So instead of asking, what will people think if I do this? Or how many likes will this get? What should we be asking?
The source suggests questions like, is this reaction true to my values? Or am I reacting out of fear or out of awareness? And my personal favorite,
What's that?
who do I want to be right now? Oh, that's a game changer. Who do I want to be right now? It instantly puts the steering wheel back in your hands.
It does. It interrupts the autopilot. Because the autopilot doesn't care who you want to be. It only cares about what you've always done.
And finally, lesson 3, the practical stuff. Because we can talk about philosophy all day, but how do I actually do this at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday when the kids are screaming?
The teacher calls it the small technique. Don't wait for a miracle or some massive transformation. Practice stopping for just 10 seconds before an old reaction kicks in.
10 seconds.
Just 10 seconds. The phone rings. Wait 10 seconds. Someone insults you. Wait 10 seconds. Take a breath.
It's about the discipline of wakefulness.
It's not magic, it's a muscle.
You have to build it. Just like that 13-year-old girl. She didn't write a dissertation on anxiety. She just closed her eyes and waited.
And that's the beauty of it. You don't need to be a monk on a mountaintop. You can do this in traffic.
You can do this in a meeting. You can do this while doing the dishes. So let's recap what we've unpacked today. The big takeaway is we aren't broken. We aren't lacking in some magical willpower gene.
Right. We are simply running an old script. A script written by repetition, by our past self-image, and by societal conditioning.
But the good news is scripts can be rewritten.
They can. The teacher sums it up beautifully near the end of the text. He says, you don't lack willpower. You are just living in an old program, and any program can be rewritten.
When you know how to stop and see. I think that's going to stick with me. It's not about doing more. It's about stopping more.
Absolutely. The pause is where the power is.
Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you, the listener, with a challenge. It comes directly from the source material.
Oh, I like this part.
The student in the text, after realizing all this, gets super excited and wants to go tell everyone, save the world.
And the teacher gives them very specific advice. He says, share this knowledge with one person you care about. Because you never know, they might be on the verge of spiraling. And this idea of the pause might be the thing that saves their afternoon.
So that's your homework. Who in your life is running on a stressful autopilot right now? Who needs to know that they can just stop?
Send them this deep dive. Start the conversation. Help them find their pause.
Exactly. Thanks for diving in with us today. As always, stay curious and keep watching those reactions.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.